What is going on, everybody? So today we're going to be taking a look at iOS 14.1 as well as iPadOS 14.1. Now I apologize, I know this is quite late, but man, I've been so busy and I'm trying to get as many videos done as I can and get that content out. So yeah, we're going to be taking a look, like I said, iOS 14.1 today, so let's go ahead and jump right into it. Alright, so this is usually reserved for many bug fixes and improvements that have been discovered in the major release of iOS, so in that case iOS 14. So this update focuses on a lot of bug fixes, but there actually is a new thing here. So HomePod 14.1 was actually released, and that gives you the new intercom feature. So you can now use that with your current HomePod as well as all your iOS devices and even your watch and all that, etc. So you can now use that new intercom feature even if you have the original HomePod. Also, this adds the 10-bit HDR video playback and editing capabilities in the Photos app for iPhone 8 and later. So if you have an iPhone 8 or later, you can now view and edit any 10-bit HDR video that may be sent to you by somebody else. Obviously, that was a new feature that was announced with the iPhone 12. You can now do Dolby HDR, so that's pretty cool. So yeah, if you have a phone, like for example the iPhone 10 that I have here, you'll be able to view that footage and edit it if you desire. So those are the two features, I guess you would say, that were added to iOS 14.1. Well, let's go ahead and talk about the bug fixes. So the first thing here is with widgets. So there was an issue where some widgets, folders, and icons were showing up in a reduced size on the home screen. Now I haven't seen this issue at all, but basically your widgets, there are certain sizes, you set them, they may not have been appearing correctly. And I think this is actually maybe more of a problem on certain phones or maybe the iPad, but if you have had that issue, it should be resolved now. The next thing here to do with widgets that was also fixed is there was another problem where if you were dragging widgets to the home screen, so if you went over here and you wanted to add a new widget and then you wanted to move that widget to your home screen, you move it over and it moves all your applications and everything. Well, sometimes apps would be pushed out of a folder that you had on your home screen, and that can be pretty annoying. So that has now been resolved. There was an issue in Mail where sometimes emails were sent from an incorrect alias. So it would send it from the wrong alias, and that's obviously a major problem as well. So that has been resolved now. Next thing here had to do with phone calls. So everybody knows on the iPhone, when you get a phone call, the number will display, and then below that, it usually tells you where the phone call is coming from. And it's pretty accurate. It even goes based on city and state, or even country. So there's actually a problem where that information was not displaying for some phone numbers. So that has now been fixed. Another thing here that was resolved had to do with your lock screen. So if you go to your lock screen and you enter your passcode traditional way, like this, without using Face ID, you know that down here at the bottom you have an emergency button, and that obviously will be able to place an emergency call. So if you were using a smaller screen phone and you use the zoomed display feature, or the feature where you can make everything appear larger on the display, there was a problem where the numbers for your passcode, so the keypad right here, would overlap the emergency call button, and that could obviously cause you not to be able to hit that button correctly and dial for an emergency call. And that's obviously pretty important to be able to get to that in case you need it for some reason. So there was that overlapping feature, but that has now been adjusted and fixed here in 14.1. There was a problem in Apple Music which caused some users to occasionally be unable to occasionally download or add songs to their music library while they were viewing an album or a playlist. Next thing here had to do with the calculator, which is pretty interesting. You don't see a lot of calculator bugs, but there was actually a problem where you could not enter zeros into the calculator. That is a pretty big one. But yeah, so that has been resolved now. If you hadn't been able to put zeros in, now you should be able to. Next thing here had to do with some video streaming. So if you're in like an Apple application, like the TV app or something like that, and you decide you want to watch a movie or a TV show, well, sometimes it would actually start out not in the highest resolution possible, and YouTube does this a lot. You know, you might start watching a video, and to get it to buffer more quickly, it starts out in, I don't know, 480p, and then it'll move up to 1080p. Well, Apple doesn't like that, so they want it to be 1080p right when you start. So that was an issue that was happening in the TV app and things like that. So that has now been resolved. Next thing here has to do with the Apple Watch, and if you actually watched, and that's no pun intended, but if you viewed my video about my Apple Watch Series 6, which I have right here, I was having some setup issues and I didn't know why, what was going on. So apparently there was some problems definitely happening in there. And the main one though that Apple fixed was there were some problems setting up a family member's Apple Watch for some people. I didn't experience that, but I did have a problem setting up the watch just for myself. So yeah, that has now been resolved. Another thing here is some people's watches were being displayed incorrectly. So if you go to all watches in the Apple Watch app, you see a little preview of what watch you actually have, and you can kind of see it, but mine is a blue case, so it's actually a blue case on the picture. Well, there was an issue where some people were not actually getting the proper picture for the watch that they had. So that has now been fixed here. Next thing had to do with the Files application. So there was an issue where some MDM managed cloud service providers would incorrectly display content as unavailable. So if you tried to access it, it wouldn't even show up. So that has now been fixed. And then finally here, they have improved compatibility with ubiquity wireless access points. So that covers a lot of modern wireless routers and things like that. So there was some issues, compatibility issues with those. So that has been resolved now as well. Now real quickly here with iPadOS. So most of the things that I actually said for the iPhone are true here with iPadOS, and that's usually how it is. There's just a couple of minor things here. So with the 10-bit HDR playback on your iPad, you have to have either the iPad Pro 12.9-inch second generation and later, the iPad Pro 11-inch, the iPad Pro 10.5-inch, the iPad Air 3rd generation and later, and the iPad Mini 5th generation. So if you have just the normal iPad like I do here, well, you're not going to be able to edit or view the 10-bit HDR footage. And then the thing with the applications and widgets and folders being viewed in a reduced size, I think that was definitely more of an iPad issue because obviously the bigger screen, it'd be a lot more noticeable. But I never really experienced that. So let me know if you guys experienced that on your iPads. But yeah, for iPad, that's pretty much it, and it's kind of expected because they're basically the same operating system still, even though they have different names. But yeah guys, that's pretty much it here for iOS 14.1 and iPadOS 14.1. Like I said, I know this video is pretty late, but I like to get it out anyways. I'll try to get the next software update video out maybe the day of it happens, but I've just been so busy lately. I am going to start working on a lot of Series 6 Apple Watch content, so if you guys have any suggestions for that, be sure to leave it in the comments down below. But yeah, what do you guys think of iOS 14.1? Has it improved a lot of bug fixes? Maybe you've had some of these, but I hope they are now resolved for you. But that's all I got for you today. Thanks for watching. Be sure to hit that subscribe button, and I'll catch you all in the next video.